Before we dive into that, I mean, as far as you also have been a big, we're always kind of looking at similar properties, the same properties, it seems like, and so forth from a real estate. So you've kind of built up a portfolio of habitational rentals, either single family duplex or triplex type of scenarios, if I remember right.
Yep.
So what kind of got you into that then to begin with, or what was your first property with that?
Well, I was thinking about that coming into this, and I feel like my background has been a little bit entrepreneurial. For a while. Like my dad was a missionary, but he's a businessman at heart too as well.
Oh yeah.
I remember going to school, and before going, we'd make little sandwiches and bring them and sell them to our friends for 25 cents. This is back in like elementary school, and until the local cafeteria said you got to stop bringing that stuff because you're going to put us out of business. And then me and my brother in college had a little book business. We'd buy back from students and sell them on Amazon. The bookstore also labeled us, "Hey, you can't set up shop right outside our bookstore."
So really, truly entrepreneurial from the beginning.
And then so I've always had that, and always had the desire to just to be entrepreneurial that way, and being an engineer, problem solver. So I was looking at new creative ways to try and solve the problem. So, and like a lot of people, it was back in like 2017 was when I got my first property. But leading up to that, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh yeah.
I'd been married for 3 or 4 years at the time, and doing the whole I don't know who has a 9 to 5 job, but it's really 8 to 5, 8 to 6. I'm like, where's this gonna go? And that just got me motivated, and found Bigger Pockets podcast as well, and that just fueled it. And found my first property ended up being an online auction.
Really?
Hubzu. And it worked out pretty good. At the time, it was a duplex. It was listed. Well, it was an online auction, so you were bidding on it. But I ended up getting it for $102.
Okay.
The first property duplex in Lexington. It was 5 minutes from my house, so I think it was the only way I could have done it at the time.
Yeah.
Because I was still working full time. We had a young Hazel was 2, and so I did all the fixed it all up, and needed new carpet, all that stuff. And so it was 5 minutes from my house.
First one, then how'd you finance that first one? Just putting 20% down?
First one, I didn't have a home equity line of credit open up yet on our house. We had our personal house, but my dad ended up giving me the bridge loan to get to when I had the home equity line open.
Okay.
And like most people, you jump in, and whether it's a little bit naive, I learned quite a bit on the way, but still, in retrospect, it still was a really good deal.
As long as
the
first one can be profitable and a good deal, like you learn so much off just that first one alone. Yeah. And each one you learn more and more. But that first one, I mean, you're like, wow, I didn't know near as much as I thought I did after you kind of complete that first process.
But I think the big thing with that too is still just like, I analyze deals probably for, I don't know, months, maybe 8 months, and maybe I'm a little more risk tolerant than most people. I was like, I just got to make a dive, found something that seemed like it made sense. I ran through the calculations, and that's the biggest hurdle most people can't get over is that first one. They'll analyze, and if you got a deal, just go for it.
Yeah, eventually you got to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's what we did. Pulling that first trigger, the first trigger is the hardest part of the whole thing. It really is. Like once you pull the trigger the first time, and you at least don't maybe get burned right away type of scenario, or at least kind of, that's when, and everything after that, it seems like, all right, I have confidence. I know, I at least know kind of what I'm doing, or at least, enough to know that I'm not going to, I can do this type of scenario. So that's awesome.
My plan at the time too was like, all right, get one every year, maybe 2. I had a 3-year gap before getting my next one, just with having another kid and life going, and then finally, it wasn't until kind of my brother, who's my business partner now, we got together. It was 2020, and he was kind of getting on the bandwagon finally, and we joined forces once again, and we got two triplexes in Winchester.
Okay.
Actually, no, one was a quad-plex, and the other.
That's right.
Yeah, they both were quad-plexes.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And that kind of got us going there, and so we've been kind of Winchester.
I know, so you kind of build up a niche there, and I know, what has that been like as far as difference between, maybe more the or other central markets? Winchester seems like I lived there for a few years, actually, when I was in probably late elementary and middle school and stuff like that, and it doesn't always have the greatest reputation in some respects, but it's so close, and I feel like you've gotten in on the cusp of something the kind of the turning of the tide there in a lot of ways. So what have you seen as far as that goes with Winchester?
What I've seen there is, well, one, just the property values are a lot lower. I mean, a lot of the properties that we're finding are in pretty bad condition. They haven't been kept up like they should.
Right.
And so most of the properties that we find that are a lot cheaper than the ones in Lexington still have quite a bit of work to do. They're not like a property you find in Lexington. But we've also found that though rents are also less than they are in Lexington, just the fact that the properties are that much cheaper, they still work out.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a good property manager down there, because I wouldn't even try to venture to manage any of the properties there just the distance and the hassle of it. But
so you can speak highly of having a property manager, especially when you're working a full-time, both of you guys are working full-time jobs.
I do not have any time with raising a family and being involved with all that. And as much as I work at my day job. So.
Well, I think it's a good transition into more of like the engineering side of things, because part of it stuff is, regarding zoning sometimes, and we'll kind of just touch a little bit on that. But like, as you found other areas and so forth, like the different zonings, there's a lot of the houses, especially in the Winchester market, it seems like, where they've been converted from single family homes because of the zoning laws allowing that into, duplex, triplex, and so forth like that. Yeah. Which, as you were well aware, causes sometimes other aspects, especially on the insurance side.
Yes.
Sometimes a little bit of not a difficulty, but kind of limits some of our options. Yeah, a big thing called secondary egress, and so there's a lot of times, as you've discovered, where like for example, we just did a triplex, I think, and there was two units on the bottom, one on the top. Yep. And in that case, the one on the top has to have a second means of getting down from that second story outside of just that one stairwell type of thing. And if it doesn't, then it usually just limits a lot of our options with who will insure the building in that sense. So, but obviously you've become a bit of an expert on that with several properties having that situation.
I tried to push for the ladder on the outside, or the rope ladder, but that's no go. Be a little more permanent than that. No, that I've experienced that firsthand, and as long as you incorporate that into your analysis, it usually works out. But speaking to the zoning aspect of it, I mean, I think most seasoned real estate investors get the zoning process of it, but some of the stuff that, especially early on, investors might not realize when they're looking at properties is, one, it's got to be zoned for that. Yeah. You can't just switch it over and say, oh, I'm going to convert this to duplex or triplex. And even the way you go about doing a zone change matters too. You may not be able to change it. Yeah. No matter how much you want to.